now.
Okay.
Okay, well, everybody, this is TX21 Indivisible. This is our weekly Chip Roy virtual visit. But since we're restricted to only one meeting a month, there is no one from Chip Roy's office on this Zoom call. But we are going to record this. We are going to record this meeting, and we will distribute the recording on social media, so it gives people a chance to read it and see what we say. I'm going to begin with a short note. Actually, this is not a letter that somebody wrote, but it is actually a comment that was posted on Facebook by a lady, Charlene, from Canyon Lake, Texas, who gave me permission to just read this out at today's meeting. So she was moved to write a comment in relation to, in response to Chip Roy's interview with Fox News radio Guy Benson, I think his name is, who was interviewing Chip in relation to coronavirus and Black Lives Matter. So this is what she posted. Mr. Chip, you stay silent as Trump throws gas on the flames. You stay silent as Trump clears peaceful protesters with tear gas for a photo op. You stay silent as secret police walk the streets of DC. You stay silent as Trump tweets out conspiracy theories about anti-fascists. But what is more disturbing, you stay silent when a KKK member ran his truck through protesters. But the most disturbing fact is that you stay silent after the KKK newspaper endorses Trump along with every other white terrorist group. Your silence is a disgrace. Signed Charlene, I won't use the second name, Charlene from Canyon Lake, Texas. So she had my permission to read that out. I thought it was quite good.
Oh, it is.
I like
Very
that.
good.
Yeah. And since it kind of links a little bit to what I wrote, maybe I'll read my letter and then we'll go around the table. Okay?
Okay.
Congressman Roy, while I have heard you condemn the killing of George Floyd, I have not heard whether you believe there is a systemic racism in American society. Do you believe that there is systemic bias in America that works against the Black community in terms of education, employment, housing, criminal justice, etc.? What is your position on the Black Lives Matter movement? Do you have any sympathy with the millions of people who have taken to the streets and demonstrated over the last 2 weeks for equality and justice for the Black community? Do you agree there's a need for a significant police reform? Will you support the police reform bill that is coming up for debate in the House and Senate? Specifically, do you agree with banning the chokehold? Do you think there should be a national misconduct registry? Do you think there should be mandatory racial bias training? Do you think that the police really need military-grade equipment? Do you think federal uniformed police officers should all wear body cameras? Do you think we need anti-lynching legislation? Probably not, since he voted against that. I would like you to post on your website your position on these issues and your rationale for your stance. From your comments on your Fox Radio News interview with Guy Benson recently, I somehow suspect you will not support many, if any, of the above reforms. In which case, it's time for you to pack your bags, Mr. Roy. November is coming soon. Regards, Brian Clark.
Very, very good.
I like it.
Can I ask y'all if the wind chime I have here is causing a problem? I can take it down. Do y'all hear it?
Every once in a while, but it's not bothering me. I like it. I wish I had one, but
Yeah, I like
I don't
it
have a
too.
place to hang one that's good enough.
Okay, well, I'll leave it for now, but if it gets too annoying, I'll take it down.
I remember once it was really windy and it was really loud, and I think
Yeah.
they took it down, but it's fine with me
I
Okay,
think it's okay for the
at
moment.
the
Steve.
moment.
okay, but if
Yeah.
it gets too loud, just let me know. Okay,
Shirley just joined the meeting, so hi, Shirley.
hi, Shirley.
Hi, Shirley.
Hey.
Well,
We're recording, Shirley, so just so you know.
I guess we'll just, on my display screen, I have left to right, I have Brian and then me and then George and then down to Mary and Shirley and Catherine. So I guess I'll just go next, and then we'll go to George and on around. I have actually 3 letters. Most likely, I'm not going to read all 3 of them. One of them is fairly long. The other 2 are very short. But I think I'll read the long one. And if there's time, I'll read one or both of the short ones. Representative Roy, in a recent rant, you described members of TX21 Indivisible as supporting Antifa, violence, looting, destruction, and quote unquote, defacing our city, state, and nation. Wow, what a bizarre delusional bubble you live in. But to pierce a hole in it, let me set you straight. I just completed an informal survey of TX21 Indivisible members, and here's what I found. Many of us are retired folks who held responsible jobs and who worked and contributed to the economy for as many as 30 to 40 years of honorable service. Our younger members work and contribute to the economy in the here and now. Most of us are parents and some have grandchildren. We all value education in all its forms, whether it be through college, trade schools, or on-the-job training. We all cherish our right to vote and do so regularly. The only ideology we follow, if you want to call it that, is pragmatism and common sense. All of us believe in science. All of us strive for a clean environment on land, water, and the atmosphere. All of us believe that healthcare is a right, not a privilege, and that includes lower prices for prescription medications, protections for pre-existing conditions, strengthening the Affordable Care Act with the addition of a public option, with the longer-term goal of achieving Medicare for all. We support capitalism and tax policies that work for all Americans, not just big corporations, oligarchs, and the well-connected. Many of us are church goers who value thoughts and prayers followed by deeds. We value our constitutional right to peacefully assemble for the petition of grievances, with our other tools of protest being marches, signs, letters, postcards, office visits, telephone calls, emails, and letters to the editor. You won't find a single pitchfork among us. We believe in police reform that treats all citizens fairly and justly. We decry GOP voter suppression, which is aimed primarily at African Americans, the disabled, and other minorities, and that furthermore diminishes democracy for all of us. We believe in comprehensive immigration reform and respect and protections for immigrants, asylum seekers, and dreamers. We believe in a fair and just society that works for all Americans. We yearn for a return to decency and competence in national government. From Harry Truman, who oversaw the creation of the United Nations, the Marshall Plan, alliances with democratic nations, the post-World War II order, and the desegregation of the U.S. military, we lament that we now have a narcissistic, immoral little man in the White House who systematically goes about dismantling that world order and who callously rubs salt into the open wounds of racism in our country. And though the list could go on, we are patriots who believe in both the real and the aspirational goodness of America. Representative Roy, it is light years beyond political hyperbole when you call local officials tin-pot dictators for putting into place sensible COVID-19 protections, when you call supporters of those measures Nazis to linking TX21 Indivisible to Antifa and violence. Besides these allegations being totally untrue, they are outright dangerous in democratic public discourse. Have you no shame? Finally, we are not just members of TX21 Indivisible, but by definition, we are your constituents. And we demand at least some level of democratic representation from you. However, not expecting that, we will exercise every fiber of our constitutional rights to vote you out of office on November 3rd. For just leaders. Okay, that was the long one. So,
That was excellent.
That was great.
I agree with
Love
every
that.
word.
well,
love
thank
that.
you. Okay, George, do you have something?
I do. Mine is very short, and it follows along from Brian's.
Dear Representative Roy, I have seen your public statements trying to have it both ways on Black Lives Matter. The truth is the police in this country are overfunded and over-militarized, and your calls to fight for justice are meaningless posturing. Until you commit to amending 42 USC 1983 to repeal qualified immunity, kindly stop trying to convince people you care about ending police violence. Your lies are obnoxious. Sincerely, Susan Shorn,
Oh, I
Austin,
like-
Texas.
Okay.
Excellent. Excellent.
Very good.
Very
George,
simple.
Your lies are obnoxious. Yeah.
Do you have another one, George?
Nope, that's it.
That's it? Okay.
Short,
All right.
sweet, to the point.
Go ahead, Mary.
Well, I probably should have not written this letter, but I did, just because but I did first want to say that I support Black Lives Matter and want him to support the bill. I can never remember the number of it, but the one about policing. I'm sorry about that. My letters. You have been tweeting about Antifa terrorists lately. Antifa terrorists and extremists in your zeal to whip up fear among your online supporters. Yet, according to the FBI, Antifa is more of an ideology than an organized group, and the FBI has so far found no evidence whatsoever of its involvement in the current unrest gripping our country. The term Antifa is generally used by left-wing activists, but it simply means anti-fascist. In my view, at least, anti-fascism should not be a controversial position to take. I am not particularly radical, and I do not condone violence in any form. I am a blind, elderly, sprout-growing, married, retired, white female social service worker. As such, I might be a wacko, but I'm absolutely no one's stereotype of a violent terrorist agent. Nevertheless, if Antifa means anti-fascist, then I proudly embrace the label. Perhaps you should embrace it too. Remember that we fought a bloody war to stop fascism 70 years ago, a war whose outcome was by no means a foregone conclusion. In the end, our participation in that war catapulted our nation into a position of world domination that lasted for decades, which is another topic for discussion. In the end, anti-fascism is American as apple pie. We would do well to embrace it.
Excellent, Mary.
Nice. You're not elderly, Mary.
66 years older, I will be.
Yes. I love that. I don't know. He might hold that against you, you know, those wacky Austin people growing sprouts.
Oh, well, but I just figured, that I'm just one example of all the kind of people. We're all, liberal weenies. We're not,
Yeah.
Well,
we're the people who get laughed at for eating kale,
Yeah.
Well, by mentioning sprouts, he'll probably label you as a California socialist.
Oh, well. That's another group. What's a socialist? But we're not going down that road today.
Yeah.
They've co-opted that word too.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm going to take down my wind chime just to be on the safe side. But if you want to go ahead and get started, Shirley, go ahead.
Well, I didn't actually write a letter because I've been doing a lot of other things like reading. But what Mary was writing about, I read all his tweets and I forgot to save the one that I was particularly irritated about. He's trying to make a fake war with Wendy. He tweeted it, and I don't remember the exact words, but it was something like, well, I've come out against Antifa,
Oh yeah.
whatever it's called.
Right.
But why hasn't she said anything? I thought, well, maybe she's against fascism. That's why, because it sounds like he's pro-fascism every time he
Sure
talks about
does.
the anti-fascist people. Don't start making fakey things trying to make it sound like she's not doing something she should be doing. It's just irritating.
Well, this is all on purpose. This is
Anyway.
Oh,
very
yeah,
purposeful.
it is.
Yeah.
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 That's my, Stop it. Stop it. That's my message.
It's a smokescreen.
Yes, exactly. He's just trying to
And that's
make
kind of
up
what I'm trying to say.
something
He's making
that
up
he
something.
can say that's negative about Wendy when he doesn't
And-
have any real
yeah.
things to say about it all.
And to try to keep people from seeing the real problems in this country.
Yes.
To get them all whipped up about something that doesn't matter so that they won't
Because
notice how they're being treated.
He's trying to be a local Trump. That's what he's trying to do.
Mhm.
Well, and he's embraced Trump wholeheartedly.
Completely.
So,
Yes.
Well,
in
and
his
you know,
emails and so forth, he highlights his support of Trump.
yeah. And with everything that's going on, yesterday he issued a press release about like it's time to open up America. Like he's back to that, which that is his campaign. That's kind of his campaign speech right now. But I'm just like, it is opening up.
It is opening, yeah.
It's not
And
good enough for him.
all the cases are increasing.
Yeah.
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 And Texas is one of the states where they're increasing.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Well, anyway, that's my message for Roy this week.
And let me ask Brian a question real quick. Based on, I think it was a little graphic or something you posted yesterday, are the cases increasing in Travis County?
Certainly the last 2 days, the number of cases actually doubled.
A double.
Overnight.
Okay.
So a significant increase. Exactly why? I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people responded to that posting with various theories as to why it jumped up. But maybe I will read my third letter when we've gone around the table because it comes back to this point again. So.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay.
Catherine's letter, though, she got a letter published in the Austin Statesman.
Oh.
Do you have the letter?
I do. I'm just going to read it.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Maybe they changed it. I don't know, but I'm just going to read. So when I submitted it, my title was U.S. Rep. Chip Roy promotes conspiracy theory about George Soros. To the editor, U.S. Rep. Chip Roy rightly joined the Texas Republicans calling for the resignation of some county GOP chairs who have recently shared conspiracy theories and other offensive material on social media. The congressman himself, though, appeared to profess support just the other day for a long debunked theory about George Soros funding Antifa and paying protesters to riot. Speaking with Dana Lash about riots and Antifa on the Dana Show on June 2nd, Roy concluded, maybe we can go look at guys like George Soros and everybody else that have had financial ties to these groups. Does Roy really believe these conspiracy theories, or is it just another dog whistle? To be sure, this is not as offensive as, for example, the post shared by Sue Piner, chair of the Kamal County GOP, and a Roy endorser according to his campaign webpage, but he must be held to account. Catherine Wall.
No, I don't think that he really is that stupid. I think he just thinks we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Well, he thinks that's what his supporters
Or
want
his
to hear.
supporters.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was I don't know if you can stomach listening to him and Dana Lash in 1 8-minute. Yeah, I know it was, but they were just so
That's horrible.
Yeah.
scary.
They were.
And apparently her show, that's her radio, it lasts like 2 hours.
My God.
But he proudly posted that clip. And at first I thought he just posted it on his Twitter, his campaign Twitter, but it was on his official House member Twitter feed and also on his 2 Facebook pages. So he was real proud of that.
Oh, listening to the two of them, it makes me
have
ill
a
to
listen.
think of it.
It's cringeworthy.
Yes.
Yeah, very, very much so. Okay, Brian, do you want to go ahead and read that letter?
Yeah, this one is kind of more of a rant, and it go back to the theme I keep beating up on, but still, reprehensible Roy. We have now passed another horrific milestone in the disastrous presidency of Donald Trump. We now have more than 2 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, 112,000 deaths, far exceeding that of any other country. And there appears to be no end in sight for the United States. The Trump administration and Republican Party have basically thrown in the towel and are walking away from this issue completely. They obviously regard it as no longer important. Unlike every other developed country in the world, the United States is not seeing a significant reduction in the number of daily cases. About 1,000 citizens are dying every single day from this virus, and we're accepting that as normal. However, every other developed country is seeing rapidly decreasing numbers. New Zealand has now had 17 consecutive days of 0 cases and 0 active cases. And basically, they've declared their epidemic over, and they're going back to work as normal. Even those countries like Spain and Italy, who got hit hard because they also failed, like the US, to take any lockdown measures until it was too late, are now seeing only tens of deaths every day. Over 20 states in the US, however, are now seeing increasing numbers of cases. The situation in your home state of Texas is getting worse. Yesterday, Texas hit a second record hospital admissions day, and the daily number of cases has been rising steadily for the last 2 weeks. I've yet to hear you, Mr. Roy, make one single criticism of the Trump administration's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. While the virus originated in China, the responsibility for the spread of it within our country lies squarely with Donald Trump's failed response. And those within the Republican Party, like yourself, who failed to take it seriously and have consistently made excuses for Donald Trump's mishandling of the issue. November can't come soon enough. Pack your bags, Mr. Roy.
Yeah.
Bit of a, but you know, I get really angry about it when I see other countries actually numbers coming down and the US basically not. And it's because there's no centralized response.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And also, you know, they've just stopped talking about it. It's like, as far as the White House is concerned,
It's gone.
the pandemic is over. It's they're, you know, they have been a success. And, you know, Abbott also isn't really, you know, making a big deal out of his press conferences when he does a new executive order and so forth. So, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I may, if y'all don't mind, I might go ahead and read my 2 short letters.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve. So we still haven't used up our normal 30 minutes yet. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. We haven't. Okay. Representative Roy, a few days ago, I saw a photograph of the White House fence that separates democracy-loving Americans from a presidential despot. It reminded me of the old Berlin Wall that once separated democratic West Germany from dictatorial East Germany. And similarly, the remaining Berlin Wall is covered with freedom-loving graffiti, just as the new White House fence has quickly become covered with graffiti advocating for democracy and justice. As for you, well, not only are you on the wrong side of the White House fence, but on the wrong side of history, the wrong side of democracy, and the wrong side of the U.S. Constitution that you profess to revere so much, for the defeat of tyranny.
You're picking up my thumb.
I was going to say representative, but you're reprehensible. Your reprehensible is catching on. I'll go ahead and go with it. Reprehensible Roy. Showing his insatiable need to be the center of attention, I recently received a letter from Mr. Trump in which he bragged about the part he played in the millions of stimulus checks that have been sent out. As you should know, all of those letters were completely unnecessary. As such, since you set your alarm each evening by the deficit clock, how do you justify the expenses of staff time, paper, printing, and postage that these letters have incurred? As such, would you be recommending an investigation to see how many of our tax dollars were wasted to satisfy Trump's ego? If not, are you really a deficit sparrow rather than a deficit hawk? As your constituent, I deserve to know, as do all your constituents. And please, don't be a hypocrite by making excuses and rationalizations, for honesty. Okay, that's all.
Which one of the children went on that hunting trip that cost us all that money?
Don Jr.
Don Jr., right?
He's the
What
trophy
was this?
hunter.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, it turned out that we spent, what was it? How many? They had reported it, but it was actually way more money. Reporters have to really dig to find the money that these things really cost.
So
Yeah.
what did they do exactly?
He went on a hunting trip for a trophy for an endangered, what was it, a goat?
Goat or a sheep, I think.
A sheep. And then, yeah, he had to have this trophy of this endangered sheep. And we spent a whole lot of money on his Secret Service and yeah.
This was Trump's son.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. Did you read what's happened
Donnie
in
Jr.
Alaska?
About what?
Well, the Trump administration is, I don't know if they already signed it or he's signing it today. They're going to allow expanded hunting on federal lands in Alaska.
Yeah.
And some of
yeah.
the things that are going to be allowed are just,
Just
They're
horrendous.
going to let them kill the cubs in
Yeah,
the cave, in the
exactly.
den. Yes.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
there are
Oh, my
many other
God.
things, but the other thing
I
is,
just don't understand that Alaskan governor. How can
Oh,
she
no.
allow it?
well, and it's federal land. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
I guess they can do what they want on their own state land. But
Can all of this be reversed?
well,
Well, it's going to be really hard to
Yeah.
reverse it. And some of it
yeah.
will already have done the damage. I mean, there hasn't been a single protection against the environment or against humans that they haven't felt they
Changed.
should dismantle. And sometimes for no reason. Sometimes there's really not even any money to be made. They just do it because they want to.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is all Obama administration protection that activists have been trying to
It's
get in
hatred
place for a
against,
long time.
yeah.
But there was a thing in the article I read about the International Safari Association, which of course is, I mean, it's an association for trophy hunters, and they're auctioning off a hunting trip with a Don Jr.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
God.
Can you imagine?
Oh, I know.
Is that the prize or is that that's the punishment?
Yes, that's the, So
That
maybe
sounds like the booby prize,
maybe
yeah.
George Soros could like get the winning bid on it and
Oh, just
invite
so
all
you know, like when this,
minions to go and, be at, I don't know. It's insane. Crazy.
when I first started with Indivisible, which was a few years ago, and I really didn't know that much about politics, I started hearing there were people tweeting and putting on Facebook that, well, you must be getting all this money from George Soros.
Oh yeah. Where's
At the
my
time,
check?
I had to look up who the hell is George Soros.
I did too.
And you
And
know
now
what? I
we-
still don't really know. He's just a rich guy that happens to lean liberal in some ways.
Yeah.
Um,
And he created the coronavirus.
oh yeah, I forgot about
Oh. Now
that.
we know.
Anyhow,
Now we know.
now we know. Now we
Yeah.
know.
Okay, guys, I'm going to cut the recording off. We got about 30 minutes, which starts.
Okay.
Did you do a screen capture, Brian?
Yeah, I did a screen capture early
Okay.
on, so I'll send you the
I
screen
want
capture.
to apologize for not being in the picture
Okay, I'm going to
one of these
terminate.
days.
Okay.
that.
One of these days,
But-
I will get